overheard my husband planning my murder on the phone.
He pushed his pregnant wife off the yacht, but she survived.
Have you ever trusted someone so deeply, only to later realize they were the very knife pressing against your back? Imagine hearing your husband, your protector, your lover on the phone, plotting your death. What would you do? It was just after 7:43 p.m. when Clare Whitmore walked past the open door of the master bedroom, barefoot, cradling a small bowl of cherries. She had returned early from her prenatal yoga session and intended to surprise her husband Ethan with a simple evening snack. But what she heard instead turned her entire world to glass, shattering with every word. "Yes, I've handled it. Tonight's the night," Ethan whispered into his phone, pacing back and forth. "She's completely clueless. I'll take her out on the yacht. Make it look like an accident. After that, the empire's mine. Everything." Claire's heart stopped. Her hand froze in midair. The cherries rolled onto the marble floor, one of them splitting open red juice, bleeding slowly across the white tile. Just like her soul, she didn't move. She didn't breathe. She listened. "Yes, the will was transferred. She signed everything over to me last week like a lovesick fool. She has no idea, it was a setup from the beginning. No, I'm not worried. She's pregnant 7 months in. She can't fight. A push is all it takes." He ended the call and slipped the phone into his pocket as he walked toward the bathroom. Claire silently backed into the hallway, heart pounding so loudly, she feared it would give her away. She moved like a ghost through their massive villa, down the curved staircase, into her private office, the only place she could think. Tears didn't fall. Not yet. She opened her drawer and pulled out a yellow folder. Inside were copies of everything: corporate ownership filings, marriage certificate, and the so-called transfer of assets that had taken place just days ago. Her father's lawyers had insisted on making it reversible. A test. Ethan didn't know that. Claire remembered her father's words before he passed. "If he truly loves you, he'll protect your crown, not reach for it." They never trusted Ethan, but Claire believed in love. Tonight, love had died. She picked up her phone, dialed a private line. "Logan, it's Claire. I need the rescue team on. Stand by at the marina by 10 o'clock. P.M. No lights, no sound. I'll be wearing the life jacket under my dress." "Are you in danger, ma'am?" "Yes, but not the way you think," she replied coldly. "I'm not planning to drown. I'm planning to expose a murderer." She stood from her chair and walked slowly to the mirror. Her eyes were no longer warm, no longer naive. They were the eyes of a woman reborn through betrayal. She looked at her reflection and whispered, "Let the show begin." The moon hung like a voyeur above the harbor, casting a cold silver glow over the $1 million yacht docked quietly at Holston Bay Marina. Claire walked beside Ethan, her arm loosely locked in his. Her smile distant, but sweet, almost dreamy. Anyone watching would think they were the perfect couple. But under her flowing navy blue evening dress was a concealed life jacket. And beneath her calm exterior boiled a storm of betrayal and survival. "You look beautiful tonight," Ethan murmured, kissing her temple as he helped her onto the yacht. "Just like the sea and the stars." Claire smiled, but her stomach turned. They stepped aboard the 60-foot luxury yacht. Ethan led her toward the deck's edge. A bottle of champagne, already chilled on the table. The boat crew had been dismissed for the evening. Just as Ethan had planned, just as she had counted on. "You know," Claire began, her voice light. "This is the first time we've had a night like this in weeks. I missed this." "I know. I've been swamped with board meetings and stockholder calls," Ethan replied, pouring to glasses. "But I'm here now, and I wanted tonight to be perfect." Claire studied him, wondering how many times he had rehearsed that line. She took the glass he offered, but didn't drink. Instead, she leaned against the rail, staring out at the open water. "Ethan," she said softly, "do you ever think about how far we've come? From nothing to this," he smirked. "Every day. It's what keeps me going." Claire glanced down into the dark water. "Isn't it crazy though, how easily something or someone can just disappear?" Ethan stiffened beside her. "What do you mean?" "Nothing," she said quickly, turning with a soft laugh. "I'm just rambling." Ethan hesitated, then stepped behind her. She felt the shift in the air, the sudden quiet. His hand grazed the small of her back, emotion that once gave her goosebumps. Now it made her skin crawl. The ocean swelled and rocked the boat slightly, and Ethan tightened his grip. "Claire," he said, his voice deeper, lower, almost tender. "Do you trust me?" She turned to face him, her eyes glassy. "With my life." And that was the moment. Ethan moved. A shove hard and fast. Claire's body tilted backward. Her arms flailed for balance. The cold air whipped past her as she fell. A scream caught in her throat. Splash. She hit the water. But no panic. No gasping. Claire held her breath, letting the buoyancy of the hidden life jacket carry her. Beneath the surface, she opened her eyes, calm, alert. She waited 30 seconds, then another 30. Above, she could hear Ethan pacing the deck, cursing. "Claire, Claire." She kicked softly toward the rendezvous point behind the yacht, where a silent speedboat drifted just out of view. Logan's voice cut through the night. "We've got her." Two strong arms pulled her from the water. As they sped away under the moonlight, Claire whispered, "Let him think he succeeded." She stared at the shrinking yacht in the distance. Let the world watch what happens next. 4 days later, the headlines exploded across every media outlet in the country. Tragedy at sea. Pregnant wife of tech CEO, lost in yacht accident. Billionaire heiress, presumed dead. Search called off after 72 hours. CEO Ethan Whitmore seen weeping as authorities close case. Candlelight vigils were held. Corporate offices flew their flags at half-mast. Celebrities tweeted condolences. But perhaps the most surreal part of it all was the closed casket memorial service, organized, sponsored, and wept over by Ethan himself. He stood at the podium, in an elegant gray suit, a practiced tremble in his voice, his hand resting on his chest. "Claire was the light of my life," he said, his voice cracking on cue. "She was my best friend, my partner, and the future mother of our child." The audience sniffled, unaware that the man before them was a fraud in every sense of the word. From the back of the cathedral, a woman wearing a black veil and oversized sunglasses sat perfectly still. Her hands were folded over her lap, her diamond engagement ring tucked into the bottom of her purse. She wasn't there to be mourned. She was there to watch. Claire had waited for this moment. She had taken refuge at her family's mountain estate. The minute the rescue boat brought her ashore, Logan and her mother had sworn secrecy. Her father had always warned her. People grieve differently. Some grieve, some inherit. Ethan had chosen the latter. As she watched him console, weeping, friends and manipulate investors with trembling hands and misty eyes, Claire clenched her fists beneath her coat. His performance was Oscar-worthy. "Are you sure you want to see this?" Her mother, Margaret, whispered beside her, her voice soft. "I need to," Claire said. "I need to know exactly how far he'll go." As the service concluded, the press swarmed Ethan outside the cathedral steps. "Do you blame anyone for the accident? What was the last thing she said to you? Is it true she left you her entire fortune?" Ethan feigned brokenness, but didn't deny it. "Claire loved me. She trusted me. She wanted me to keep her legacy alive." The cameras flashed as he stepped into a black town car, playing the role of the grieving husband to perfection. Claire stood across the street, her hand tightening around the umbrella handle. She had expected betrayal, but this grotesque theater of grief. She turned to Logan, who stood silently behind her. "He's not even pretending to be sad anymore. He thinks he's already won," Logan replied. "He thinks you're gone." Claire exhaled. "Good, because that's when people get careless." She removed the glasses and slid them into her coat pocket. Her eyes sharp and clear were locked on Ethan's retreating car. "He'll never see me coming," she said. 2 weeks after Claire's death, Ethan moved his mistress into the mansion. She didn't tiptoe. She didn't sneak. Vanessa Clark walked through Claire's marble-floored estate, in 6-inch heels, and a robe that barely reached sipping mimosas straight from a champagne flute. Her hair was blonde, her laughter sharp, and her presence loud. The staff, many of whom had worked for Claire's family for years, watched in quiet disgust. As the woman Ethan had been sneaking around with now paraded openly as lady of the house, Claire saw it all. From the live surveillance feeds carefully rerouted to her private estate. She sat before a bank of screens, eyes scanning every room like a hawk. "She's even using my perfume," Claire muttered, watching Vanessa spritz the signature scent on her neck. "That's my robe, my slippers." She moved in fast, Logan said, crossing his arms as he studied the footage. "Not even pretending to mourn." "She never mourned, because she never cared," Claire replied. She was part of the plan. I heard them whispering once. Back when I thought I was imagining things. I thought I was paranoid. Turns out, I was just naive. Claire rewound the footage too earlier that morning. Vanessa and Ethan having brunch beside the pool. What's the latest on the estate lawyers? Claire asked. They're still running through your father's trust. Logan replied. Ethan only has temporary control. Once the final audit is done, the board will vote on permanent ownership. And if I don't show up before then? Claire asked. He keeps everything. Claire stood, heart pounding. Then it's time to turn up the heat. That evening, as Vanessa flipped through design catalogs in the living room, a parcel was delivered. No return address, just her name written in looping cursive on the front. Vanessa opened it casually, expecting jewelry or designer samples. Instead, she found a single Polaroid photo. It was of herself on the yacht, standing beside Ethan. The night Claire died, Vanessa's hand trembled slightly as she turned it over. On the back, in neat handwriting, it read, "Guilt stains deeper than salt water." She dropped the photo like it had burned her fingers. "Ethan!" she screamed. He came running from upstairs, shirt half-buttoned. What happened?" She thrust the photo at him. "Someone was watching us. This wasn't taken by anyone we know." Ethan snatched the photo and examined it, his face tightening. "No name, no address, no fingerprint," Vanessa said. "It's a warning." Ethan's jaw flexed. "It's a prank. Someone trying to mess with us." But Claire knew better. Back at the estate, she watched as Ethan dropped the photo into the fireplace and lit a match. He thought the fire could hide his sins. But the ashes meant nothing. The storm was only beginning. By week 4, Ethan had completely transformed. Grief was no longer his mask. It was his weapon. He walked into the boardroom of Whitmore Global Holdings, dressed in a sleek black suit, Claire's custom initials still embroidered on the cuffs. The board of directors, all men twice his age, rose as he entered, like pawns before a self-declared king. "Gentlemen," Ethan said, voice firm and confident. "We've mourned long enough. It's time to get back to business." He spoke of growth, expansion, mergers. He promised a future built on the foundations Claire's family had created, without ever speaking her name. His charm moved like oil on water. The men nodded, swayed by his confidence, unaware they were playing into the hands of a predator. What Ethan didn't know was that one of the board members, Derek Langston, had once served under Claire's father. And Derek hadn't liked how quickly Ethan had filled her seat. That afternoon, Derek made a discreet call. "She's alive," he whispered into the phone, stunned. "Yes," Claire said on the other end. "And I need your help." Quietly, Derek exhaled, his voice shaking. "Whatever you need, just say the word." 2 months after Claire's disappearance, Ethan threw a lavish party at the estate. He claimed it was in honor of her would-be 31st birthday, a night to celebrate her life, as he put it to the press. But behind closed doors, it was something else entirely. It was a declaration of dominance. Champagne flowed like waterfalls. Chandeliers glistened above waltzing elites. And a jazz quartet played soft notes that barely masked the undercurrent of whispered curiosity. "Why now? Doesn't it feel soon?" Vanessa wore a tight black dress that hugged her every curve. On her wrist sparkled Claire's diamond bracelet, a family heirloom. Her lips kissed every camera that came near. Ethan's arm never left her waist. They posed like royalty. And it sickened the staff. The mansion had changed. The warmth had gone cold. And then, the first card arrived. It was discreet, hand-delivered to Vanessa's clutch by an anonymous server. She opened it carelessly mid-laugh, expecting fan mail or a compliment. Instead, it read, "Some ghosts don't haunt, they return." She stared at the words for a full minute before her smile cracked. She folded the card slowly, tucked it away, and immediately scanned the crowd. Nothing. Just strangers in diamonds and tailored tuxedos. But across the street, parked in the shadows, sat a black SUV. Inside, Claire watched through binoculars, her heart steady. "She's cracking," Logan said beside her. "You sure about doing this tonight?" Claire's voice was firm. "I want them to feel me. Not just fear. Doubt. I want her to lie awake, wondering if she saw something. Or someone." Meanwhile, inside the party, Vanessa whispered the card's message into Ethan's ear. Ethan's face darkened. "Where is it?" She showed him. He cursed under his breath. "Who the hell is doing this?" Vanessa whispered. "What if it's Claire?" Ethan spun on her. "Claire is dead." Vanessa's eyes flickered. Then why do I feel like she's watching us? He grabbed her wrist tightly, masking it as affection for the cameras. We keep playing along. No panic. She nodded, but her hand trembled slightly as she picked up her glass. Later that night, Ethan opened his personal email. Subject: you should have checked the will twice. Attachment: a scanned copy of the royal inheritance document. It was the original file, the one Claire's lawyer drafted, the one that made all transfers conditional on her death being accidental or natural. Claire's was neither. Clause 17. In the event of foul play, all assets revert to the estate's founding trust, and the board will initiate emergency review. Ethan's hands trembled as he read it again and again. He couldn't breathe. Who sent this? He muttered, pacing across his home office at 1:43 a.m. His tie was undone, his shirt soaked in sweat. Vanessa sat curled on the couch, barefoot, arms crossed. I told you something was wrong, she said, her voice sharper now. You should have burned every file, cleared every account. Ethan slammed his fist on the desk. I did. I went through all of it. This file shouldn't even exist. Well, it does, she snapped. And whoever sent it knows exactly what they're doing. He turned to her, eyes blazing. Do you think it's her, Claire? Vanessa hesitated. I saw her, she whispered. At the memorial. Not clearly, but someone was there dressed in black, hiding her face. Something in me knew. It wasn't just grief. I felt it. You're imagining things. Am I? Vanessa shot back. Because I can't sleep. Every time I turn a corner, I feel her eyes on me. Ethan ran a hand through his hair. Even if she is alive, we can't let this unravel. I've got the vote with the board next week to finalize the CEO transition. If I don't secure that, everything we did, everything I killed for was for nothing. Vanessa stood slowly. Then fix it. How? She walked toward him, her voice low and deliberate. You find out who sent that email. You shut them down. You erase the trail. And if Claire is alive. She leaned in close, whispering in his ear. You finish what you started. He stared at her for a long, hollow moment. Cold, he murmured. Vanessa shrugged. I learned from the best. Monday morning arrived like a storm on the horizon. Silent. Heavy. Charged with tension. Inside the towering glass headquarters of Whitmore Global Holdings, the executive board gathered in the private conference room on the 40th floor. The city skyline stretched out behind them like an indifferent witness. Ethan adjusted his cufflinks as he stood before the panel of directors, delivering his final pitch for permanent CEO appointment. His voice was smooth, steady, even charismatic. You wouldn't guess he hadn't slept in 3 days. Gentlemen, and Madame Belle, he nodded toward Harriet. Under my leadership, we've stabilized the company during an emotional and unpredictable time. Now is not the moment for disruption. It's time for us to move forward, with strength. Polite applause followed. Derek Langston exchanged glances with Harriet. They both said nothing. Ethan smiled and continued. I request this board's vote to confirm me as CEO, effective immediately. As my late wife wished, let's proceed. The chairman said, all in favor. Hands began to rise. Ethan's breath caught. 5 votes already. Just one more, and he had it. Click. The door opened. Every head turned, and walked. Claire. Alive, beautiful, radiant. Her hair tied back, in a sleek twist. A black suit hugging her figure. A subtle baby bump showing beneath the tailored blazer. A hush fell over the room like a dropped curtain. Ethan's face drained of color. Claire. One of the board members gasped. She gave a small nod. Good morning, gentlemen. Sorry for the interruption, but I believe you were about to give my company away. The chairman stood, stunned. Ms. Whitmore, this is impossible. It's not only possible, she said calmly, it's necessary. She placed a thick envelope on the center of the table. Inside, you'll find everything. False asset transfers, offshore accounts, tampered trust, documentation, and evidence that the night I died was a murder attempt orchestrated by the man standing in front of you. Ethan stood frozen, unable to speak. Claire didn't look at him. I faked nothing. I survived. And I kept records, she continued. My family built this empire. I am the legal heir, and I am very much alive. One by one, the board members opened the files. Gasps, mutters, disbelief. Derek leaned forward. I move that we pause the vote and launch a full investigation into Mr. Whitmore's actions. Harriet seconded it. Unanimous. Ethan finally found his voice, though it cracked as he spoke. Clara, I thought you. She turned to him for the first time. I know what you thought, she said quietly. You thought you could kill me and inherit everything? You thought you were clever. She stepped closer. But you forgot one thing. Ethan swallowed. What's that? I'm a Whitmore, she said. And we don't die easily. Security entered moments later. Mr. Whitmore, you'll need to come with us, one said. Ethan looked around, desperate. But there was no one left on his side, not even Vanessa. Especially not Vanessa. Vanessa had never felt more invisible. As Ethan was escorted out of the boardroom, in handcuffs, flanked by security and gasping directors, she stood behind the glass doors, just out of sight. Her stiletto sank slightly into the thick carpet as she leaned against the wall. Her eyes locked on the scene unraveling inside. She'd been watching it all through the narrow slats of the corridor blinds, watching the man she once clung to like a lifeboat be dragged out of the empire he had drowned Claire to steal. Vanessa's phone buzzed. A single text from Ethan. Don't say a word. She stared at it for a second, then deleted it. Later that evening, Vanessa arrived at the mansion alone. The estate staff who had once greeted her with tight-lipped civility watched her with open disdain. She made her way up the stairs, thinking she could at least salvage her wardrobe before the whole thing came crashing down. But as she stepped into the bedroom she had claimed, she froze. The room was empty. No jewelry. No designer dresses. No bags. Everything had been removed, folded, boxed. Sitting atop the pile was a single card. Leave now. No cameras. No goodbye. Just go. C.W. Vanessa's breath hitched. She turned sharply on. There was Logan, standing in the doorway with 2 estate security guards behind him. Your car is waiting outside, he said calmly. You have 10 minutes. You can't do this, Vanessa snapped. I lived here. I was with him. You were with a man who tried to murder his pregnant wife for money, Logan said, his voice steady. This house belonged to her, and now, it's time you left it. Vanessa's lips quivered. She's not going to press charges. No, Logan said. Claire doesn't need to put you on trial. She already won. As Vanessa's car rolled down the long driveway of the Whitmore estate, she looked back one last time. The mansion loomed behind her, just as silent and grand as the night she first stepped foot inside it. But now, the lights were off in every room she used to occupy. She had spent years helping Ethan take everything from Claire, and now, she was the one left with nothing. 3 months later, Clare Whitmore stood at the same harbor where her nightmare had begun. But this time, she wasn't boarding a yacht as a victim. She was stepping onto it as a survivor. As the wind brushed through her dark hair and sunlight reflected off the waves like scattered diamonds, Claire placed a hand over her stomach. Her daughter kicked strong, healthy, alive, a sign that she had done the right thing by fighting back. For her child, for her legacy. The world had watched the downfall of Ethan Whitmore play out in slow motion. Across every major news outlet. CEO arrested in shocking yacht murder plot. Heiress returns from the dead to reclaim empire. Pregnant billionaire outsmarts husband and mistress in ruthless betrayal twist. Investors had fled. Stocks had dipped. Then soared again, once Claire took the reins. She had publicly resumed her role as CEO with the same poise and presence that once made her father legendary in the business world. But behind the corporate comeback was something deeper, something more personal. She had rebuilt herself not out of revenge, out of resolve. Inside the boardroom of Whitmore Global Holdings, Claire addressed her executive team for the first time since her return. Gone was the girl who once deferred to Ethan. The woman who stood before them now was sharp, composed, and utterly in control. I won't pretend that the last few months haven't changed everything, Claire began, her voice steady. But I'm not here to talk about the past. She paused. I'm here to talk about the future. Not just mine or my daughter's, but all of ours. This company is going to stand for something. Again, integrity, strength, and survival. Because I know one thing now more than ever. She leaned forward slightly. People may try to steal your crown, but they can't wear it if they never earned it. The room erupted in applause. Derek Langston gave her a proud nod from the front row. Harriet Bell wiped a tear from the corner of her eye. Claire smiled genuinely this time. She wasn't just back. She was better. Later that evening, Claire walked alone through the halls of the estate. Everything was quiet, golden in the twilight. She passed Ethan's old study locked now, his belongings boxed and stored. He had been sentenced to 18 years without parole for attempted murder, fraud, and conspiracy. His trial was short, the jury unanimous. Vanessa had vanished from the public eye, and Claire had risen. She stepped into the nursery. They were preparing upstairs. Soft pinks and whites decorated the room. Stuffed animals lined the shelves. In the center of the room sat the baby's basket, beside a rocker that once belonged to Claire's mother. She sat down and placed her hand on her belly again. I thought I lost everything, she whispered to her unborn daughter, but I was wrong. Because losing everything was how I found myself. And with that, Clare Whitmore, once betrayed, once broken, closed her eyes and smiled. The storm had passed. And the crown was finally where it belonged.